Hello again. Sorry, been a little bit of a lull between videos. The last one kind of blew up a bit. I was not expecting that, to tell you the truth. The one about ageism and finding work. It was really just a reply video. But I guess that is more. It's directly what you guys are tuning in for. Sorry, it just was a lull because actually I switched jobs. I went back to my original unit, which is a pulmonary unit, because they had a part-time a position available, and I needed the part-time. I needed to take a little time away from work and more with the family. And my manager, who happens to be the manager of both units, the neuro and the pulmonary, said, "I don't have anything for the neuro where you're comfortable, right? I want to go back to the pulmonary, which she's in desperate need of people." And for her, it's a big coup. Not that I'm anything special, and it's not me. It's just that I'm a steadying force, that I'm experienced, and I can go to a very young crew. I mean, I saw the seniority list, and I'm like up top, and I'm like, wow, that's bad. That's really bad. So when I'm the experienced crew, I'm the experienced charge going over. It's good for her, but it's kind of scary for me. I'm like, what the So yeah, it's also like progressive care. And I told them, keep me on the dumb surge side, please. But I had to pull a couple shifts on the progressive care with all the vents and trachs, and that was not fun. It wasn't horrible, but I had to really shake off the rust. And, like, I hope nobody dies tonight. So it was unfortunate. It's a good career move. My girlfriend's like, hey, it's a good career move. And I'm like, I could give a crap about my career. 54 years old. I'm at the end of the road, It's like the traveling Willsbury. I'm at the end of the line, okay? I'm happy. Just there's calm seas. That's all I'm looking for, okay? So that's why there's a little lull in the video. Sorry, 2 minutes just to get to that, right? All right. So recently I've had a number of requests and stuff. I'm going to try to take them one at a time, but this one I wanted to address was a job, kind of on the same train of thought as the last video. When you graduate, what kind of job are you looking for, right? And I had said med surg is what I recommend. Even though my daughter is an ICU nurse right out of graduation, and she's having a bit of a tough go about it. One, I disagree with how they're training her. I have severe disagreements with that. And I've even brought it to other educators from our hospital. We're all part of the same system, her hospital and our hospital. So ultimately, they answer to the higher ups of the same educational executive, right? So, but I'm friendly with the ones in my hospital. And they're like, you can't, I'm not gonna out anybody, but they disagree too. And I had said to my daughter, I said, look, this is why I just didn't recommend you going the ICU route right out of school. A lot of the ICU nurses that had been there too also didn't go that route. The older ones, they had to go through med surg training and then apply to get to ICU. But a lot of the ICU units are so depleted, either from people just retiring, dying, changing, COVID and other things, and aging population, and the difficulty of it, the whole industry in general, that they've taken in new graduates when they never did it before. My girlfriend said, I don't like, that was not one of the reasons, but that was a complaint she had before she left NICU was, and went into research, is that I'm not here to teach time management. You're supposed to know that shit already. Are you kidding me? Because, I mean, you had to apply to get into ICU. You still do to some degree if you're a vested nurse. If you're a seasoned nurse, you actually still have to apply. But they'll take graduates for some reason. I don't know what the reasoning. I guess they're thinking like the Marine Corps, they just completely tear you down to rebuild you up. That's okay because you have 16, 18 weeks of basic. You don't have that time here. You're given patients right away. My daughter's giving patients right away. They live or die, whether you do your job right? So she's floundering a bit, and that's why I don't recommend ICU. It's a great training, and my own daughter's in it. I'm not bashing it at all. It's top notch. Like I say, I stay on the dumb surge side. It's nice and easy. I don't have a problem. It's just time management is your main goal. And I said this in a real old video that's your first skill that you must master as a nurse, even in ICU really. But since most of us go to med surg, that's your first goal that you must master. You're assumed to know everything else that they taught you in nursing school. Time management is the one skill you must learn on the floor, and that's the metric you're judged by. Everything else is assumed. Okay, we assume safety, patient safety, med passing, all that stuff is assumed. Chart, all that. The real skill, and I'm talking about what differentiates a new grad from a 10-year vet, is their nursing skill, right? How you can read the numbers, how you can smell out something, know what to do, like that. But one of the intangible skills is time management. And med-surg really preps you well for that, because that's the really the most important skill they teach you. But med-surg and ICU are not the only fields. I'm sorry it's taken 6 minutes to get into this. I ramble. There are other fields that are kind of med-surg related and fine for new graduates, like peds, hospice, onco. In our hospital system is kind of considered that, but I kind of put it a little higher up. It's a little different because there's other training involved. Whereas peds, you can go right from school, L&D, mother baby, all those things you can go right in, and it's not a problem, So it's just a matter of some minor additional training. Whereas onco, you have to be trained to give chemo drugs. There's a lot more involved there. Whereas the other ones, you can. Hospice would be a difficult one too, because there's a lot of high EQ that you need to know, a lot of emotional intelligence, obviously, in dealing with hospice. But those are med-surg, sorta, that you can also go into right off the bat, no problem. You could go into home care. I don't recommend that. One, depends on where you live. If you go into the projects, I know a lot of nurses, they literally needed a bodyguard. This is not a driver, it's a bodyguard. They needed a bodyguard to go into these places. They also needed a driver. So it's not just a simple, we're going to go in and do this wound and whatever. They used to let people do that. Nowadays, they know the dangers involved. So it's not as simple as that. School nursing is good too, but you also need a lot of EQ for that, a lot of emotional intelligence for that. It's not just, I see a lot of people burn out from that too. Even new teachers, they need a high EQ, not just a high IQ, but they also need high EQ because you're dealing with families, parents, kids. It's, again, not something I recommend for just coming out. It depends if older adults, we might be better suited for that because we've been parents, a lot of us. Or, we have that life experience, right? That's the whole thing with this videos. So those might be open for those people. Camp nursing, there's a lot. Corporate nursing is also something where, you're using the RN license more as like an MBA. You're using it as an additional letter to your career. And I've seen a lot of people do that. My friend who has a JD and got her RN ended up going back to corporate. And I said, see, I knew you were going to go back to corporate. I knew it. But it was just bedside, just burnt her out. She's a year older than me, and she was like, this is rough. And she was on the pulmonary unit. She ended up leaving back to corporate. But, being a lawyer for 25 years, it was easier for her to do that shift backwards, if you want to call it backwards, For her, it was backwards. But these are other options that you can go into starting out. I was thinking about doing like specific peds and OB and whatever, but to be honest, I'm not qualified to. I'm very honest with you guys, very upfront. I can talk about med surg, I can talk about some progressive care, I can talk about ICU, because I have a lot of connections to those. I have family members in that, so back and forth. I have friends in that. I work with a lot of CCRNs too, just working as they're just using their RN license, not their CCRN certifications. They reserve that for their ICU units that they work on. And that was just an aside, a question I had recently. I think it was John Montana. He was asking, like, what can you do? How do you work if you just have an ADN or a diploma or BSN or MSN? And I was like, regardless of type of nursing accreditation that you get, we're all RNs. So you could just do it as an RN. It's like you have an MBA and you have a PhD and you have a whatever in business, but you just want to be an accountant, everyday accountant. You could be an everyday accountant. So it's okay. You got all those degrees in accounting and whatever. You could teach. That's fine. You just want to use your thing as a CPA. That's fine. Same kind of concept. I have DMPs, MPs, just working as RNs because sometimes they can get more money, or they just want the simplicity of it, or they just want to brush up on their skills a little bit more and then shift back. Different reasons. And that's the beauty of nursing, is that you've got an RN, you can do all the nursing stuff. If you want to teach and you want to do other stuff and be a manager, typically you need the advanced degrees. But you can always go backwards. People say, I don't want to do managing anymore. I want to go back to just bedside, because there is a calling. That's the whole point of our profession. It is a calling. And you might be tired of it for a little bit and take a break and you want to go back. Even my girlfriend's like, I miss bedside. She misses the babies. It was a calling for her. She get, base salary for us are lower, but we have the flex to go overtime. And that differential is usually in there is where management and everybody else resides, but they don't have that flex to go overtime because they're salaried. We have that flex. I know many nurses earn as much as residents or more than residents, a lot more than residents. And the difference is they're pulling overtime. And residents can grumble all they want. And I think residents should be paid a lot more because they pull that hours. It's not like you say, well, nurses work harder. No, residents work very, very, very hard. They're pulling 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks, doing 24s. And that's insane. I think that should be illegal. That's, just for their safety and patient safety. I was like, what? Anyhow, off the soapbox, go back to main topic. So I didn't want to do specific videos. I now that I'm shooting this, I'm like, no, because I'm not qualified to talk about peds specifically. You guys can search up a peds video, peds nurses. There's a lot. There's ICU nurses if you want to talk that. There's other med-surg nurses. There's home care nurses. Whatever flavor, it's out there on YouTube already. And they're specialists in that field. And a lot of the med-surg nurses have more experience than me. So they can give you a different flavor too. And also it gives you, I'm in the New York metropolitan area. So I'm going to give you an East Coast flavor. I have friends on the West Coast, but I don't really talk to them so much about that. And so, but that's a whole nother nursing too. And that's very cushy. But, there's a whole nother social economic issues going there right now as well. There's Southern nursing, there's Midwest nursing, there's foreign, Canada and England and France and Southeast Asia, East Asia. There's a whole bunch of different flavors. Again, you're tuning into me, it's probably North American YouTube, right? Germany YouTube is something else. African YouTube is something else. Japan YouTube is something else. China YouTube, again, different flavors. So that's why I was like, let me just give you an overall opinion and see if I get any feedback. Maybe I can address it a little bit like I did for John. He was asking, like, could you do that? Yeah, you could practice with just a diploma and just be happy with it. Some of the best nurses I know, in top 5 nurses in my head that I know in real life, all of them, 4 out of 5 were diploma nurses. and then they climbed, they got their ADN or jumped right to BSN and an MSN and a DNP or PhD, what have you. All of, just so there's nothing to be taken away from just having a diploma. And I said it that way to him. I say it's just diploma, but you're a nurse. I find that training is the best out of all the starting out, whether you're an MSN trained, there's that rare MSN only. You don't have an informatics or management or anything else or advanced practice nurse. You're just an RN, but you have an MSN. That's how you did it because you had a bachelor's. I've known a couple that way. Very rare, uncommon, very uncommon. Then the most common is probably BSN and ADNs, just because ADNs are cheapest. BSNs are most widespread probably right now. It's probably neck and neck. It used to be much more ADNs. And diplomas used to be the only way, and that is a dying breed. Those are probably more rare now than anyone else. It's unfortunate because they're the best trained, in my opinion. But you can practice as a nurse all across the way. And then he was asking, do they pay for tuition? I was like, that depends on the hospital. Some hospitals are, some facilities won't, they'll laugh at you, right? They're like, what? Be happy you have a paycheck, So it all depends on where you get hired. It's like corporate world. You get hired at UPS, you get paid certain amount, and then depending on where you're hired in UPS also, right? And benefit packages versus, FedEx might have something different, or US Postal Office might have something, all different flavors. So your mileage will vary on that. That's what I was trying to answer to John. But this is just not quick anymore, 16 minutes. But just my opinion on starting out nursing wise. You can do a lot of different things. It's not to say med search is the best way. I say that, I'll stand by that. And I have firsthand knowledge with my daughter. I still agree, even to her face right now. I mean, I'm very blunt with my kids. I'll be blunt and honest with you guys too. I still think, and this is my reasons, you could shoot holes in it, or you could say, wow, that's pretty bulletproof. It all depends on your take on that. Do you want to stay in med surg? Maybe not. Most people don't, especially the younger ones, because they want to move on to bigger and better things. And that's great. Me, I'm already heading for the pasture to hopefully stud and gonna stay there. All right. Good luck.